Is anyone else getting bored of the current selection of dungeons that we have today? When you think about it, dungeons is such a massive and complex component to the game, although the reality is there's 8 floors if you include the entrance, and then another 7 floors in Master Mode. Now clearly these can become very repetitive, as essentially a floor to floor, they're very similar, maybe a few different rooms added, not really anything too crazy. Not to mention that people later on into the game aren't going to be doing majority of the floors, probably just floor 7s or Master Modes. As you can see, in July of 2020 was when the first ever floor of Catacombs was released for people to play. Following that, in September of 2020, floor 5 was added, and then in October of 2020, floor 6, and then in November, floor 7 was added. From there, in March of 2021, floors 1 to 5 in Master Mode were added. In April of 2021, Master Mode floor 6 was added, and then in March of 2022, Master Mode floor 7 was added. I guess for a lot of people, they probably think that's as far as dungeons are gonna go. Catacombs completed. Well, you'd probably be correct. I can't really see them adding any more floors onto Catacombs. It wouldn't make any sense, really. Although, if you actually go to the Dungeon Hub and take a step back, you'll realise that it's not just one gate. There's essentially 2 other gates, which would indicate 2 other potential dungeons in the future. Now, over to the left, we have some, like, jungly, mushroom-looking entrance, and there's a little piece of carpet, and above says, not coming soon. Same again over here, it's like a sandy sort of entrance, terracotta maybe. Again, not coming soon. So from there, you may think in the future, there could possibly be another dungeon, along with the Catacombs. Which is probably true, but by them blatantly stating not coming soon would probably indicate no time soon. At the end of the day, they do still have a foraging update to create and a farming update to release. But you know what I find interesting? Now we all know this is the Wizard Tower, and literally for the best part of 2 years we've been getting teased that there's going to be an update revolving around Barry, or the Wizard Tower, and this portal, which has never materialised. Now literally for the longest time, if you were to right click on Barry, he would have a text line in the bottom left that would basically tell you to come back in the next so many working days, basically teasing that there's an update close. Obviously it never really happened. Now from that, is it so irrational to think that there could be an update soon? I don't know, but anyway, let's look into it. What could potentially be behind these gates if they were to actually release another dungeon? Well, just look at the array of items that we've got from Catacombs. I mean, the Giant Sword, Livid Dagger, Shadow Assassin Armor, Spirit Scepter, Flower of Truth, Shadow Fury, Necron's Blade, and of course, Hyperion, Valkyrie, Estrella, Scylla. Wither Armor, so that's Necron, Storm, Golda, and Maxa. Even the Dark Claymore, and obviously way more. Virtually all we know and use today about Skyblock, majority of the time, has emanated from a dungeon or Catacombs. Which means if there was to be a new dungeon, we would probably see, I would assume, probably the best armor in the game being updated, the best weapon in the game being updated. It would only make sense. Now, obviously, Hyperion is quite a unique weapon. It's probably one of the best weapons on the game, if not the best weapon in the game, and I'm pretty sure most people can agree with that. But majority of your damage comes from right-clicking the floor, creating explosions and exploding mobs, which is obviously not really consistent with a typical Minecraft or Skyblock sword. Same goes for a weapon like the Dark Claymore. Obviously, it's more of a traditional sword, like you hit and it does melee damage, but the swing range is 5. Okay, so there's always a twist. When you look at the Terminator, I know this didn't come from a dungeon, it's Ender Slayer, but regardless of that, it's a short bow, and that's not typical. So it had me thinking, in terms of the new best weapon in the game that could potentially emanate from a new dungeon, what are we thinking? And to be honest, there's only one answer I could come up with. I'd probably say the most famous sword in the world has got to be Excalibur, right? Surely people have got to agree. It is a long sword, it kind of seems a little bit like the Dark Claymore, but nevertheless, they didn't take the name. But I wouldn't imagine that it'd really be like the Dark Claymore. So the Excalibur, this obviously would have to be the new best weapon in the game, which means it would have to do more damage than any other weapon in the game. Now, let's take a look at other weapons. We all know that the Giant Sword is renowned for doing quite a lot of damage, especially for the price, and the Giant Sword simply gives plus 500 damage. Now, we all know the Dark Claymore is basically just a buffed version of a Giant Sword. It has the same damage, plus 100 strength, plus 30% crit damage, and also a swing range of 5 rather than the regular, is it 3? Now, I would imagine that the Excalibur would have plus 700 base damage, plus 200% crit damage, and plus 200 strength. That may seem way too overpowered, and it would destroy everything that we currently know. But at the same time, the new dungeon is going to be way more difficult, which requires you to have a better weapon, which is why you need this to complete later floors. I've got it. Plus, it's naturally going to happen over time. The next best weapon in the game, if it's not what I'm talking about, is going to be something else, and it's going to be ridiculously overpowered to what we consider overpowered today. Not only that, okay, I've got quite a bold idea. You know how we currently have, like, mana? And obviously mages use mana to basically do damage along with ability power. And currently along with mage we have healer, berserk, archer and tank. Now what if there was a new class? First of all, I just want to say that when this update does eventually come out, I don't know if they were planning on creating new classes anyway, but if they weren't, then I might as well create one. So the new class that I have in mind would be called Electro. It seems far-fetched to what we have today, although I don't really know if they were to create another class what it would be. Now as by the name Electro, you would essentially do increased damage based on the amount of electricity, I guess, that you have. It may not be called electricity, but I'm not the most creative person in the world. To be honest, I mean, electricity thrives off power, so it could just simply be called power. Now, if you choose this class, it would, I guess, work somewhat similarly to mana. Although you see how, if we come over to this gate, they have these mushrooms lying around everywhere on trees. Well, these mushrooms, in my head, would be electronically charged, and you'd be able to harvest the electricity, or the power, from these mushrooms in order to give you more power or electricity. Now back to the sword, the Excalibur. Okay, so this will have a special power. You know how, like, I don't know, the giant sword has the ground slam, and then the livid dagger has the dagger that you can throw. Okay, and this is the Excalibur's special power would work something similar to cross between an EMP and a nuclear bomb. And it will cost electricity to actually use. So the right click ability would be called, let's call it electro-thermo incineration. And basically when you right click, everything within a 25 block radius is completely incinerated, and anything outside of the 25 block radius is frozen in place for 30 seconds. I don't know, it's such a random idea, but it would be insanely OP and it would fit and probably be the best new weapon in the game. Now of course there will be new accessories and reforges that would basically aid you to get this new electricity or power. Still haven't decided what to call it. And there couldn't be a massive new update and a crazy new weapon without a new armor set to go along with it. And I think it should work similarly to how the Crimson armor works. Now obviously when you buy Crimson or Aurora or any of the new Nether armor, when I say new it's not really that new, but when buying it from the AH you can essentially just buy the base variant of it. That you then have to upgrade it yourself. Then you can get all the upgraded variants like hot and burning and so on. To be honest, there are probably quite a few flaws that I haven't properly thought through with this new weapon and this whole new system. Yeah, I can imagine there probably is. But at least it'd be something different. As for the new armor set, it could be called something like Fusion Armor, and it could have 3 or 4 tiers that you could upgrade yourself. Obviously, once you upgrade it, it would essentially be non-tradable. So in its basic tier, it would obviously give you like a small buff of crit damage and strength, a slightly bigger buff of health, and then a little bit of defense and possibly maybe even a little bit of intelligence. Obviously, that would increase as you upgrade through the tiers. To be honest, thinking back on what I've explained, this new class could quite easily just be mage. But I think with a few tweaks, there could be a similar class implemented. At least that will then give direction to new sort of weapons and armor sets in the game. It would differentiate them from the rest, I guess, and that's probably what people are looking for, something new. Also, the appearance of this new dungeon, I mean, just from, I guess, the entrance and what they sort of are teasing here, I mean, it looks, like a forest, but at the same time, there's leaves going on in the regular catacombs sort of gate, so I don't know. It almost looks to me like it's some sort of magical, like, film set, magical from, like, the mushrooms, and then, like, a green screen? I don't know, I really do think it does look pretty cool. On the other hand, I mean, this looks a little bit more boring. Now, of course, with this update, whenever it does come out, if it ever does, there could be way more that's done to it to make it way better, which there obviously will be. Now, let me know in the comments if you have any other ideas that you would like to see, if you would like to see any other different kinds of weapons, different classes, and so on. It's pretty interesting, you know, just to let people say what they think. And also, when they do actually make this update, like I said, if they ever do, it would be interesting if they could basically let the players decide what they want. And that could be the same with other updates too. Obviously within reason, like nothing too crazy. But even like polls, okay, we've created this weapon and we've created this weapon. Which one do you want to see in the game? I don't know. I'm going off on a tangent. Anyway, I'm just going to end the video before I go on for any longer. If you did enjoy, make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one.